welcome to Friday night edition of Detroit in Black and White. We've got Jim Nardoni, the former police chief in Trenton, and we've got Eric Brown, who's a literacy advocate and a community activist. And so we're going to get to a round of what's on our mind, and then we're going to bring in, we've got a special guest tonight. We've got Roy McAllister Jr., who is running for city council. He's a previous council member and then a previous Detroit police officer. And he was running in the 2nd district. So, Jim, we'll go around the horn here. Anything you want to talk about?
I do. First, I'm really happy to have Mr. McAllister on tonight. Be a 26-year veteran of the Detroit Police Department, a detective lieutenant, retired homicide detective. And he also spent 23 and a half years in the U.S. Army and Reserves. I'll let him tell the story, but he was in the CID division, Criminal Investigation Division. He retired from the U.S. Army, United States Army in 2004, but I'm happy to have him. But I want to talk about, I am known to be, I guess, a defender of rights, gun rights specifically. But I want to talk about a gentleman by the name of Mr. Ted Nugent. Mr. Ted Nugent came to the Michigan capital. He's not a resident of Michigan. He used to live in Michigan. I guess he owns a farm in Michigan on June 25th to testify before a joint House committee regarding the Michigan DNR. Of course, he roasted the DNR, but that's really not the issue. Since 2001, when there was some perceived violence or perhaps threatening behavior up there by some groups, they outlawed guns in the House of Representatives. The system only allows for representatives that have a CPL to have a firearm or police officers on duty. And Mr. Nugent decided he passed through security, and the state police trooper that was on duty said that it signaled that he had a firearm, but they didn't recognize it till after he was through security and it was already gone. Right. And then a couple legislators noticed that he had a firearm on him and notified the state
police. Okay, Jim's freezing out.
Well, they didn't say anything to him for quite some time.
Okay. Jim, are you with us?
Yes.
You were freezing up. So we missed it so he went, the last thing we heard was he went through security, but the state police did not catch the thing until he was passed. And then he went to the committee meeting. Apparently, from my understanding, I think one or two of the people on the committee contacted the state police and said, this guy's got a gun in the Capitol, which is, against the law. And they waited till after he was done and then just asked him to leave instead, I guess. So your point, I'm sorry.
I guess my question is to our friends at the Michigan State Police, what if it hadn't been Ted Nugent? Would you probably shut down the Capitol? If it was the airport, they would have shut down the airport. But I guess because it was Mr. Nugent, they knew him. Maybe they're friends with him. Whatever the case is, I'm not going to suggest that. But it's a little unusual that no one was charged. I mean, he broke the law. And while I defend firearms rights, I think that he should be charged with a crime if he knowingly passed through security with a firearm. If he did it at the airport, he would be charged. So
yeah. I think maybe one of the questions would also be, and he probably did know this, whether you were allowed to bring in a firearm. If you didn't know, there's a good chance that you wouldn't be convicted. That'd be my guess. But if he knowingly did it, which he probably did, just to be Ted Nugent, they should have confronted him, and at minimum asked him to leave, and confiscated his gun at that point and told him he can come back and claim it at some point. But you're right. The Michigan, first of all, they screwed up when he went through security. And then second of all, they screwed up by letting him stay there with a gun. I mean, he could have gotten pissed off. We don't know Ted Nugent. I mean, we see what's happening. There's a reason we have such high security in so many buildings, because we don't trust anybody with a gun or a weapon on a plane, or whatever. It's not like, hey, Jim Nardoni's here. Let him, hey, he could bring a gun onto the plane. We trust him. We have very, we don't want to take that chance that Nugent could lose his shit and open fire on somebody or threaten them with a gun or whatever. So
I'm disappointed. I'm more disappointed in the Michigan State Police. And, I support the police agencies, but I'm more disappointed in their behavior than I am. I'm not at all surprised by Ted Nugent's behavior.
Right. Eric, you got anything?
My issue is I just think that this current mayoral election, since residency has only come up with the mayoral candidates, is much ado about nothing. I mean, at the end of the day, there are many, many more issues to be worrying about than the residency of three of the candidates whose names have come up with regards to residency issues. And that's Santil Jenkins. She has a house down in Atlanta. Mary Sheffield has a property in Southfield. And Pastor Kinlock, who has a house in Oakland Township. But at the present time, all three of them have a residency in the city of Detroit. It's documented. All three of them do have residences. And I just think it's too much being talked about that, and it's not even necessary. I mean, I like Santil a lot, and myself and Adolph even had the conversation yesterday. Had I been advising her, I would have told her to not waste her time commenting on the Pastor Kinlock issue and his residency, because at the end of the day, it came back to bite her because it was pointed out she has a house in Atlanta. But again, I just would have told her no comment. I would have told her to say no comment.
Yeah. I think who cares if you have a second property somewhere? I think, it's interesting. The Detroit News had an article on Kinlock. Charlie LaDuff is really trying to beat the drum. I did look into that a while ago. I got all the documents of where he moved and stuff like that. I think one of the questions that's being raised is, how committed is Kinlock to the city? I mean, he first moved into a place on Michigan Avenue, which I can't remember if it's a Hilton or a Marriott or whatever. It's one of these places you can rent for a day, a week, or months. And so he moved in there, I think, for 3-4 months. Then he moved over to Gratiot. Then he moved to another place in Gratiot. He's got, I guess, look, I think he's legitimately he did legitimately what he had to do. The question is he going to move back? If he's not the mayor, so you're just going to go back to Oakland Township? And is that a concern that people should have of how committed you are? Are you just moving in just for this race and then you're going to move back out? I don't know. Is that a legitimate question, or should people even care about that?
Well, he's in Detroit doing a lot anyway. I mean, he has churches, so very prominent in the community with regards to his churches. And this is not an endorsement of him, but I'm just saying the issue, in my opinion, is much ado about nothing, because focus on the issues. The media did not, nor did the electorate, make a big issue out of it with Mike Duggan, nor did they make a big issue out of it with Dave Bean. So again, just focus on the issues.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Duggan moved in from Livonia shortly before the election. And Dave Bing was always questions about how much time he was actually spending in Detroit, that his wife was still living in Franklin, and that he may have been spending time there as well, which I have a little bit of, I get it, but I have a little bit of a problem. You're the mayor of a major city. No other city would tolerate, if you were the mayor of New York City, it wouldn't be like, you're up in the Hamptons all the time, or you've got a little getaway in Pennsylvania somewhere. It's okay. Nobody's going to begrudge you for having a second place where maybe you get away for a weekend, or you spend a week on vacation or whatever. You don't have to. Coleman Young used to go, to the islands or whatever for vacation. Nobody should begrudge any candidate, to go, or the mayor or whoever to travel or whatever. But I think people want to feel like you're all in, that you're living here, you're all in, and so. The residency issue, but it becomes, as you say, Eric, there are bigger issues there, but that should be the starting point of you being, yeah, I'm all in with the city of Detroit. But I want to just mention real quick, and then we're going to get to our guest, Roy McAllister, that Lieutenant Governor Gilmore.
Gilchrist.
I'm sorry, Gilchrist.
You think Happy Gilmore, the movie?
Yeah, you're right.
Gary Gilmore.
Garlic Gilchrist, the second, has gotten the endorsement of 11 state lawmakers, 2 state senators, and 9 House of Representatives. And so I thought it was interesting, and because he's been very low key so far, and I think that gives. I mean, endorsements in the end aren't going to make the difference, but I think people have to see, he's got some support here beyond just this. I think it's significant, but in the end, we talked about earlier today about whether Duggan can win the whole thing. I think he can, but I think it's going to be, I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel about that. If Duggan's a legitimate contender in this, or
I would say so. Can we talk to our colleagues just for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Just want to say hello, Joe Cool. Good evening to you, Karen Winston. Good evening, Janet. Overall, hello, Janet. Good evening. You don't like my music? Talking a little bit about Ted and how he likes crossbows. G Money. Hello, greetings to you. Hi, Derek. Hope you're well. You don't like my music? Finds it hypocritical that Capitol buildings are gun free. Well, if you go to Washington, D.C., you might as well leave your firearm at home, too. You won't get anywhere. You won't get in any museums. You won't get anywhere. Ted Nugent is a nuisance, great rocker, but because he's famous, you have to give him a pass. And I don't know what happened, but it seems like the police are friendly with Ted Nugent, most police agencies. In fact, I've been involved in a couple of charities that he donated things to. So I know he's friendly with law enforcement. That doesn't mean he's right. Should you now have to live in the city community where you want to be a political figure, Michael James? Should you not probably have to live in a city community? Well, I think that's a slippery slope, and I think you're right. They need to live there, but Mr. Kinloch, Reverend Kinloch, is making a contribution to the city, just as Santil Jenkins has been making a significant contribution to the city. So we can argue where they live right now or don't live, but they deserve kudos for their contribution to the city. Whitney Clark is a star, according to Chip Tracy. He's going to win District 5. Kinloch is a no-show on the real issues. Well, yeah, he's a little thin, a little light on some of the things, but how much information has anybody given us? Every big
right, yeah, not that you bring up a good point. I mean, when people talk about the real issues, are they really talking about the real issues? Because the average candidate cannot even define what affordable housing is unless they're willing to tell the electorate and the voters how that formula is calculated. All they're doing is talking about talking points. No one knows what affordable housing is and how it's set up. So I think the real issue is, and John Bennett put out a great piece. I think I sent it to you all earlier. People need to pay attention to that piece. And Adolph been talking about that, Jim and Alan, you all have been talking about it for a while too. The real issues are what's going to happen after January 1st and who's prepared to deal with things once Mike Duggan is gone. And that's what people are not talking about. This name recognition, this feel-good stuff, that's not what the city of Detroit needs right now. I mean, hell, you still got a lot of them scared to talk about education, which is a major concern in Detroit.
The problem is most people aren't studying the issues.
Correct.
It gets down to name recognition, and you really have to push hard to really distinguish yourself. And I don't know that any of the candidates have distinguished themselves as a certain issue where you say, Mary Sheffield is going to do this, or Santil Jenkins is going to. I mean, we've heard them on our shows, and we have some ideas, but the average it hasn't really stuck in terms of a brand, something that goes with their brand. But
and that's due to the low voter turnout.
Yeah, yeah. Let's go to a commercial, and then we're going to bring our guest, Roy McAllister Jr.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in a home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
All righty. That's, by the way, a commercial for McShane's. I don't know if they're still doing it. Was it 10 or 20% off if you mentioned the show? So we've got a great guest here. We've got Roy McAllister Jr., who we will say a little bit about him, and then he can give us a little bit more background. That he was on the city council, served one term. He was on the Detroit Police Department for quite a long time, and you can fill in some blanks here, Roy. Well, welcome to the show. Welcome to Friday night.
Thank you so very much for allowing me to be a part of the show. And when you say I was on, I didn't really have a whole term, because you have to understand that 20 and 21 was COVID, and a lot of things were shut down. So a lot of the impact that I was beginning to do, I couldn't continue on. So that's one of the things I want to say. But again, I want to thank you so very much for allowing me to be on. I am Roy McAllister Jr., a lifetime adult resident of the city of Detroit, graduated from Detroit McKenzie High School, got my bachelor's degree from Eastern Michigan University, my master's degree from University of Oklahoma, and currently working on my doctor's degree from North Central University in behavioral psychology, because one of the things we need to understand is why we have so much aggression and violence. And so that's one of the things that I'm also bringing to the table. We have to look at one of the things I heard you talk about is affordable housing. One of the things that I talk about with affordable housing is the fact that AMI, average medium income. How can we have average medium income when we're also competing with cities like Livonia, Warren, other cities?
Gross point.
Their base is $150,000 as compared to Detroit residents having a $30,000, $35,000 average income. So that's when we talk about affordable housing and average medium income. So we have to look at that because you can't compare. One of the things that I really discussed when I was on council was the fact that if you're saying, affordable housing is $50,000, then the average citizen is $15,000 short. So these are the things that we have to look at, and we have to look and start making sure that everything is balanced out. So also, I just want to also tell that that I was also retired from the Detroit Police Department. I was the former commanding officer, Detroit Homicide Section, but I also worked internal affairs, because one of the things that I also wanted to look at is make sure that we didn't have disruptive or dishonest officers on the job. Jim, I think you can appeal to that because of the simple fact you've been on the department. You was a chief. I mean, you didn't want to have anybody bringing discredit to your department.
Absolutely.
Or to the city. So these are the things that I've been looking at. I was also the regional commander of the 5 northern provinces of Iraq. And when you're talking about that, you're talking about bringing different nationalities, different languages, the military, people from all over coming together and listening to what their issues and concerns are and addressing those issues and concerns. These are the things that I look forward to returning to the city council. Because if you don't understand what the issues, and if you're not out there talking and meeting with the people, then how can you fight for their rights if you don't know what their concerns are? So these are the things that I've really been pushing and moving forward to, and that's why I want to come back. The other issue is,
can I ask you, if I can interrupt? You're running for city council. I mean, I hear mixed things about the city council all the time. Some people say, the city council sucks. Some people say it's good. How do you feel about the council, and what are you going to bring that's going to improve the council?
Thank you for that question, Alan. That's just what I was about to say. Because when you ran actually being an ambassador of a country, you know what the rebuilding process is, and that's what we're getting ready to go through. Because you're talking about an administration that's been in for 12 years now. All that's going to change. You're going to have new directors, and those new directors are going to have some guidance, as well as the mayor. You have to make sure that the mayor continues to do what they want to do, what they not want to do, but do what is best for the people. We have to look at there's dollars, the ARPA dollars are drying up. We have a president that really is not that high on city of Detroit. So we have to start looking at how we're going out with private and public partnerships. We have a number of high corporate people. We have the Gilberts, we have the Illiges, we have the Fords, we have the Penskes, we have the Gores. We have all these folks coming in. One of the things that they're talking about is they're talking about tearing down part of the Renson. It's going to happen, and they want the citizens of Detroit to pay $250 million for that. It's going to happen. I want to be at the negotiation table and say, okay, you're going to get those incentives, whether it be tax breaks, abatements, whatever. But those tax breaks and abatements need to be coming back to the neighborhoods, and that's one of the partnerships that we should have. We also have to look at, there are those that are out there that are doing what we're looking to do to continue moving on. Let's get those partnerships going, whether it be not just local, but we have to be regional, because things are more regional now than they are as a local municipality. And so we need to be sharing those resources, looking at the resources, and continuing on. So these are the things you have to, I'll just say it like this, you have to have vision. You have to have vision. When something comes down, you say, okay, how do I help and make this work for the people? And that's what we have to do, and we have to be affordable too, making sure that the people are taken care of. Just like local businesses, small businesses. That is really the catalyst of the neighborhoods. You have those working together, and therefore you're creating jobs, you're creating safety, you're getting an economic value. I heard you guys talking about how Schaefer has run down. Let's build that up. You're talking about how Linwood, District 2 is one of the most viable, holistic districts there is. You have the high end, just like I heard you guys talking about. You have Sherwood Forest, the Gulf. You have University District. Then you have those communities that's on the other side, like the Bagleys, like the College Park, like the Rose Lawns. So we have to make sure that all the resources and issues are addressed for each of these communities. Everything doesn't go in one particular community. What goes on
in your district? Okay, it's a pretty broad district there. Like you say, there's some really nice neighborhoods, and the last time I drove down Schaefer, which was a while ago, it looked pretty run down. And so when you talk about we need to improve it, how do you make that happen?
Through partnerships. And again, the tax incentives and abatements, not going downtown. I mean, we have to have a good downtown. Every city has to have a good downtown, but we also have to have great community and neighborhoods as well. And so getting those partnerships, getting those abatements, coming back, putting those resources back into the city.
And what does that mean when you say putting it back in? How does that look in terms of like subsidized housing or helping people repair their homes, or helping landlords, helping residents? What's the
let me give you an example. When Amazon came in to the state fairgrounds, they had the distribution center, and I had a friend that told me about the fulfillment center. The fulfillment center is the center where really the funding comes into the city of Detroit. So when I found out and talked to the people, I said, look, you guys need to have a fulfillment center. Your fulfillment center is like 5 miles distance from your distribution. They didn't even think about that. I said, you have enough property on that. So the fact of the matter is that once they came in, now we got them. So my next objective was to say, okay, now you guys, Amazon, I need you to start building around the neighborhoods so that we can build these neighborhoods up. Let's get the folks back into homes where they can walk to work. That's what I'm talking about. how do we facilitate moving it back into the neighborhoods, getting the people to live in residence? That's tax dollars that's coming in. That's other tax dollars from the corporate that's coming in. And then they can just walk to work without that.
Eric.
And, Brother McAllister, full transparency, me and Brother McAllister in the same fraternity. So you keep mentioning the people and the folks. Let's talk about the people. 4 years ago, in the primary election, less than 15% of the people voted. 4 years ago, in the general election, less than 20% of the people voted. So what is it going to take to get the people out to vote? Because I'm a firm believer, quality candidates also drive voter turnout. So why is, in the last 28 years, the highest turnout of voter participation in Detroit has only been 35%. And that was in 2005. Kwame Kilpatrick, Freeman Hendricks. What is it going to take? Because you can't have 85% of the people voting. Not voting, only 15% voting, but hell, 100% of the people complain. So what is it going to take to get people out to the ballot box?
Eric, I think it's an excellent question. And the fact of the matter is we're getting ready to have a new mayor. And I think that's going to bring a lot of turnout. But see, personally, I'm pushing for people to get out and vote. And let me tell you why. When people start calling me up and say, we need you to get back in office so we can have the representation. First thing I thought about was, okay, what did I do that caused me to lose? So as I began to talk to people, they said, you were everywhere. You were doing things. You were dealing with our issues. We just thought you was going to automatically win, so we didn't vote. We didn't vote. So that's why I'm pushing people. You have to get out here and vote, not only for this election, but for next year's election. You're talking about midterm elections. You're also talking about the governor's race. And whoever becomes governor is going to be very, very important also for the city of Detroit and how it moves forward. Because we still have the financial responsibility team that's hovering over us to 2028. Right. And we have to make sure that our finances are in order, and we have to have a governor that's going to make sure that Detroit is getting this fair share of whatever revenues that we do receive in Michigan that's coming down to Detroit. So it's about also working with our state representatives as well as our congressional and federal representatives. So these are the things and relationships that I have always continued to build so we can go with that. Yes, sir.
Jim,
and just to piggyback on it right quick before we go to, I just want to piggyback on that because the media is already talking about a low voter turnout. So that doesn't help either. So why are they predicting a low voter turnout in something that you have a new mayor that has not happened in the last 3 elections? So something that they feel is out there that they're predicting, and it's not just the print media, the electronic media as well.
Eric, what I believe they're going on is past history, and I'm not promoting any person, but when you're talking about some of the top people that's running for mayor, you're talking about Pastor Kinlock, who has 40,000 people that's going to his churches. Now, when you're talking about half of that, maybe they're going to look and they're going to get out there and try to vote to get him in there. You're talking about Council President Mary Sheffield, who's been there, and she has, history with her family. So folks is going to get out there and vote for that. You're talking about Chantel Jenkins, who has been on council, has done a lot with housing, warmth, and everything else. So you're going to have people to get out there. So I think what they're looking at is the past tense of how the voter turnout has been, and you're absolutely correct. But I think it's going to change. I don't think it's going to be as high as it is, because a lot of people still sit back and say, and I've talked to people say, well, we're going to wait till after the primary to see what happens. Well, that's when we lose a lot of good candidates and good people that really has that forefront to move forward, to move the city forward. So therefore, that's one of the things that I'm talking about is we have to get out and vote. And one of the things that I want to do is organize. We're somewhat unorganized, because when you bring in organization, that also gets people moving and have that initiative to get out and vote.
We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with council candidate Roy McAllister Jr. Be right back.
There was a time as a kid I lived in an abandoned house. My first sermon was to 26 people. now we're 40,000 strong. I'm Solomon Kinlock. Direct action has been my life's work, delivering groceries to thousands of families in need. My plan, tackle poverty with training for jobs that pay $35 an hour, build 10,000 affordable homes, and make every neighborhood benefit from investment, not just downtown. I'm Solomon Kinlock. Lift every block.
All right, we are back with Consul candidate for District 2, Roy McAllister Jr. And Jim, I have a question, but I want to see, do you have a question you want to ask?
I do. I'll be brief. I just think that I read the endorsement by the Detroit News, and I think there's a couple things that are really stood out to me. First off, you need to be celebrated for your contribution to the United States of America and to the city of Detroit, Michigan. You should be celebrated for that. Thank you for that.
Thank you. It was an honor.
And when the Detroit News talks about your common sense, they didn't really dig deep enough, but they did at the end of the story. And I think I want you to comment on this. So what this end of the endorsement, I don't know if anybody got to the end of the endorsement. It says, while he supported many of Mayor Mike Duggan's initiatives, he pushed back when he felt the best interests of residents were being ignored. And what we've been talking about here for the last week is people in government without courage to do the right thing. So can you address that?
Oh, yeah. You know, a lot of people said, oh, well, you were Mayor Duggan's boy. But, you know, me and Mayor Duggan had a number of backdoor debates about things that were positive, as far as when we're talking about minority contractors, women contractors, getting those positions. One of the things that I used to do is I used to state that, you know, if a contractor did not receive, I wanted to know why. I would either call up contract and procurement or call the contractor themselves and say, why didn't they receive this position? And whatever it was, we wanted to make sure that they did, whether it was certification, whatever, receive the next time. Because what I don't like, and this is another thing, when Amazon came in, if anybody knows about Amazon, Amazon brings in workers from Georgia. And I said, no. We're not doing that. We have too many people that needs employment. We have too many skilled people that are here in Detroit. So I got with Wayne County Trade Alliance and IBEW to say, look, get in these contracts. And a number of them received the contracts to help build both the Amazon and the fulfillment center. So these are the things that, you know, we look at, and I say, how does this benefit? Because a lot of things that the mayor pushed forward, if it didn't benefit the people or the communities, that's when I pushed back. And we had, like I said, we had some disagreements about that. But that's my position, and that's what the people elected me for.
And Ira Todd says hello. Ira Todd says hello, and he gives you the seal of approval. So that's like the gold star, like the good housekeeping seal of approval if it comes from Ira Todd. So the residents.
Also we have to look at how you approach people too. That's the difference. You can't go out here and try to bully or try to strong arm people. It's what the approach. It's also a give and take. So, you know, and that's what I think we've lost a lot of that also, that give and take, you know, but it has to benefit the communities. It has to benefit the people of the city of Detroit. I'm sorry, Alan.
Yeah, I'll read you, and then I have a question. Ira says, that's my favorite boss from DPD, Violent Crime Task Force. Hello, sir. Hello, Roy, sir. It's very good seeing you, Brother Bond.
Hey, Ira, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
I have a question. Okay, you've been on the police. You were on the police force. So was it 26 years? Is that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And so I would think. I mean, I'm a resident of Detroit. I would think, okay, we've got somebody who wants to be on the council again. And what are you? You know, when I've covered crime for decades, and it seems like we don't. There isn't enough innovation. There isn't enough. I mean, we're seeing that just this summer in recent times. I mean, we saw some guys who are teenagers they got into a little thing on the bus. Next thing you know, one of the guys opens fire on a park, kills a 4-year-old and an 18-year-old, and wounds a 17-year-old. How do we deal with that in a more innovative way than we, or is it? Do you feel, is it hopeless?
No, Alan, you know, there's a lot of anger, and that anger comes from not having the opportunity, not having the ability to do things. And when we reach out and we bring people in with us, and working together. And that's why I say it is a collaborative, holistic effort.
How do you do that? How do you do
by
that?
bringing them in, getting them, finding out what their skills are, sitting down, talking with them. You know, when I was at a homicide, you talk to a lot of guys, and you know, I would always talk to them, although they were going to jail. I said, well, you know, tell me why did you do? Let's get beyond this. Why did you do it? They're not thinking. Nobody's guiding them. And so if we sit down and we talk to individuals and say, look, you know, this is something that has to be done because you're ruining your life, somebody else's life, and that's not what you were put on here for. Nobody wants to go in and say, oh, I'm just useless. Because when people say that, I said, no, you are useless. And sitting down, just like our young people, you know, when you bring in young people, if you sit down and talk with them, they would love that, because only thing they just want the attention, and giving them that attention, letting them be open about what's going on with you.
And how do you reach? How do you identify, reach, and what forum are you able to do that? How do you? What's your vision for identifying, reaching out, and actually getting people to sit down with you and talk to you? What's before they're, you know, going to jail, before, to cut that off? How do you do that? What's your vision in terms of that?
You don't be phony. If people feel that you are phony, they're not going to sit down and talk with you. If I'm just sitting down there, I'm talking to this individual, I'm the only one that's running my mouth, then they're gonna like, okay, well, when do I get it? What I like to do is just say, open up to me.
How do you identify them? How do you find those people, identify them, and bring them to meet you halfway, where you can meet with them? I
have to go with Jim on that, because I don't know what it is, but when you're in the police, you have that sense. You can read people. And I mean, I do it every day. And when you see somebody, if you see somebody that's bothered by something, take that time out and say, hey, how you doing? Hey, let's sit down and talk. You want to talk to somebody? Give me a hug. Give me a shake. You know, tell me what's going on with you. And I mean, when I was on council, there was a number of people that attacked me when I was on council. And I sat down and talked with them, and they were shocked because I was approachable and I was realistic about it. And so when you see people that are having challenges and issues, stop, sit down. We've gotten away from that. And we just got to open up ourselves and just listen to people and hear what's going on with them. And I think that I'm very big on mental health. And Eric, I see you raise your hand. I'm very big on mental health. And that's one of the things that I look at when we talk about mental health, because there are so many issues. When people have mental crisis, mental illnesses, it's not just about that. I say mental health is life. You could be high and everything could be rolling for you, and then all of a sudden, something can change, whether it be through finances, you lose somebody in your life, your health, whatever. Just be there for the people. And that's what I think people, I know when I was coming up, if somebody that was very famous or something came up and spoke to me, I think all of us look at that like, oh man, he came and spoke to me, or she came and spoke to me. That's the same thing that people want to do.
Do you see
they just
that?
Want somebody to come to it. Yeah.
Do you see, if you were to get on council, would you advocate that for training for the police department or social services? How would that look to you?
That was through my mental health seminars. I used to have mental health seminars every 3 months, and I had them all over so that people, if they was on the east side, maybe they couldn't get to the west side. So I had them on the east side, west side, Southwest Detroit, all over, so that people could come and hear about it. And a lot of people, in fact, that's one of the reasons why people want me to come back, because they're saying nobody has been there for the mental health. That mental health opens up a lot of doors. I had a millennial roundtable, and I was even shocked, because when I started talking to them, they just started opening about what was going on with them. And then what I did was I started bringing in people, what we would call baby boomers. And then we started collaborating, we started talking and started exchanging ideas about how people thought, how people looked at things. And so these are the things that we have to do. And that's what I did with that, Alan, is my mental health seminars and workshops. And it opened up a lot of doors, and it assisted a lot of people.
Eric, did you have a question? Or
Yeah, so Roy, in 2018 or 2019, I forget when it was. It was in the summer, though. You know, myself, you, and a couple other people met to talk about the educational crisis in Detroit, and this is pre-pandemic.
Right.
What is it going to take to get the educational crisis resolved? Because the scores are, you know, people always want to blame the pandemic, but the scores were worse in some instances before the pandemic. And education, without a doubt, plays a role in critical thinking, plays a role in bad decisions people are making, and it might play a role in why crime, well, research has shown it plays a role in why crime is what it is. What is it going to take for the leadership? And I use the word leadership, you know, no disrespect, I use it loosely because people automatically assume because you are elected, you become a leader. You have to earn that title. But what is it going to take for people to understand that once they are elected by the people, they have to make education a priority in a city where it hurts the city because you lose business. Companies don't want to come here because they feel the workforce is not here to adequately fill the jobs. So what will you all in the next administration do? Legislative branch and the executive branch, more so the legislative branch, that's where you will be. What will you do to address the literacy crisis in Detroit?
Eric, we have to work with Detroit Public School Board in order to do that. And it also goes back to that mental health issue, mental health crisis. We can have all the programs there are, but that program could be great for that young person, that child, but then they have to go back home. What is their environment now? We have to go and look at their environment, what's going on there. I mean, if a child is hungry or they have a fear of they're not sleeping, they're not going to move forward because they're coming to school hungry. They want something to eat. They're coming to school and that's their safe haven because of what's going on at home. We need to, again, bring those services in and find out what's going on with their homes. We need to allow them to have opportunities. In 2019, I went to Cuba. Cuba has the best medical school in the world. And my objective was not to go there just to visit. My objective was to go there to say anybody that's looking to go into the healthcare profession, medical profession, let's do some exchange students. Let's get some of those students over to Cuba, bring some of those Cuban students over here, and let's start building that relationship. Aerodynamics and harbor master, that's another field. You know, not everybody is college bound. So we have to have skilled trades, have those opportunities there. You know, we have to go from learning to earning, give people an opportunity, give our young people opportunity, give everyone an opportunity. That's the biggest thing. And if we don't allow and make reasonable resources for people to have that opportunity, they're going to continue to be there. Neighborhoods cannot feel that they're forgotten about. That's the other, Jim. Just like you said, Jim, you know, you drove down Schaefer, it looked like it's going to whatever. We have to make sure that they said, no, it's not going to be like that. We're going to build up. One of the things that I looked at when Northland was closing, I wanted to build, bring some good grocery stores, good restaurants in that 8 Mile Greenfield area. Because what I was looking at is if we can bring that in, we got traffic that's going off through there. Bring those dollars into Detroit. When you bring those dollars into Detroit, you bring in jobs also, because now they're going to go out and hire those local youth and people to get those jobs. So these are the things that we have to look at and start doing in order to make sure that we were moving forward.
And can you read some of the questions, Jim? But also before you read some of the questions, Cuba has a 96% literacy rate, just so you know.
Wow. Jim,
before I go, I want to make a quick comment. I really appreciate the fact that you're not laying the crisis at the feet of these young people. It's not their crisis. Right. We put it in their hands, and it's our fault. It's the adults' fault that these kids are in crisis. Yeah. So we have a couple of points. A couple of people made some points. One politician gives a damn. Somebody said something about they want to move back to Detroit. Roy's making me feel like coming back to Detroit. Michael James. A generation of
Michael, because we're getting ready to move.
Come back, right?
Yes, please come back. Please.
A generation of blame and excuses and disrespect has no future. And I didn't hear that, but The public educational system is taking a major hit in America in general, while America has a cold right now across the board. Cities like Detroit and Baltimore have COVID and are on life support. Ira Todd, amen. Eric, fix the culture on purpose. Roy, are you for reparations of Black people? I guess that's a question for you.
I'm for the reparations of all people. You know, a lot of times we can't look at just representing a certain group, a certain amount of people. When I represent everybody. If you live in the city of Detroit, if you live in my district, I'm going to represent you. Those that are over feel like they're being forgotten about, I'm going to be out there for you. And that's not just Black folks, that's white folks, that's Mexicans, that's Middle Easterners, that's everybody. If you're in my district, I'm going to represent you. I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to listen to what you have. That's why I have, not only I'm downtown, but I also have a district office. So people can come in and listen to or present what their concerns are. And our concerns is to make sure that we take care of it. And when I was in office, I would tell my staff, tell the people we're going to do this within the week. And if that didn't happen, give them a call back and tell them why, so that they know that they are not being overlooked. They are not forgotten. Someone is still looking and to address their concerns. These are the things that must be done. We have to do these things.
And let me quickly address the one point, Jim and Alan and Roy, by Zardwi, Zardwi. A generation of blame and excuses and disrespect has no future. I want to read that for a reason. That I had a conversation with one of my rising 8th graders today. Very intelligent guy. He's planning to go either to Cass or Renaissance once he starts high school. His exact words to me, now this is an 8-year-old Black boy. His exact words to me today was, "This is why I can't stand my generation," because he see how the other kids were acting, and that's why. So I tell people all the time, it is so important that Black men in particular spend some time at these schools, K-8, as well as high schools, because 70% of the households are headed by women in Detroit. A lot of these Black boys, young men, do not see Black men around them. So when that young man made that point, and he's I talk to him all the time. He's very intelligent. You know, just the other day, he was saying to me, is it wrong that he don't listen to all rap music, and use the N-word? I say, no, you shouldn't be using the N-word first and foremost, and your music is your music. So that comment by Zarwi is very important. I think we cannot diminish, because it starts with the culture. It does. It starts with the culture, and it's a dysfunction that, people might be offended by me saying this, but there's a serious dysfunction of a culture in cities like Detroit, Baltimore, Chicago, Cleveland, East St. Louis, which are all predominantly, well, I ain't gonna say predominantly Black cities, because Chicago is not predominantly Black, but these are all cities that are considered to be urban communities. And that's something that we have to work on, because we cannot continue to make the perception that people have of urban communities the reality.
Roy, I was going to ask a quick question.
Okay.
Is there a city in America that you look at and say Detroit needs to be more like that, or we need to take some of the methods or whatever that are coming from there, or is that not a fair question?
No, it's a fair question, Jim. You know why? Because that city is the city of Detroit. Believe it or not, the eyes have always been on the city of Detroit, whether it's through our automotive industry, whether it's through our style, even when we were in receivership, people were looking at Detroit and say, how are they going to get out of that? Mm-hmm. And so it's Detroit. When you look at how other cities handle organizers and protesters, who comes out dominant? You have a lot of departments that's come and say, how did Detroit do that? So I always say, and Alan, I might be biased because I love this city, and but when I was in the military, you go all over. I mean, even people from New York. You're from Detroit? Oh my God, And so it's all eyes have always been on Detroit, because it has been such a diverse entity as far as human endeavor, and we've always risen and came out on top.
let me challenge you on something like that.
Okay.
You can't tell me that there aren't some things other cities are doing better than Detroit that we can take a look at and say maybe we need to implement that in Detroit. And I don't have anything specific in mind, but we've all been to other cities, Boston, New York, Chicago. I lived in DC for 14 years. Our public transportation is horrible. Is really, you can't, as a person who doesn't have, if somebody doesn't have transportation to get to work, it sometimes takes an hour or two, at least an hour to get one way. That's a thing in Detroit that we really lack. And so I think there are, I'm saying Detroit's a great city, but there are things that other cities are doing better, and public transportation is one of those things.
And when I went to Minnesota, Alan, they do have a good transportation system. And the reason being is because it comes under one venue. We have We have like 3 different venues, and that's why we have it like that. If you have one venue as far as transportation, I mean, a person shouldn't have to catch DDOT, Detroit, and then go to go to SMART or SEMTA or something like that. The regional transportation authority, I'm looking for them to come in. It has to be under one heading for that. When I talk to the people from the Automotive Transit Union, these is one of the things, they just received pay. One of the things that I fought for was make sure that they were secure. One of the biggest issues with them was they had a high absenteeism rate. And therefore, a lot of that transportation was not met because of the low turnout of drivers that was available. So these are the things that we were working on, and that's one of the things that I was working on. But when you go there, I will say Minnesota has a very excellent transportation system, and I went there to see how we can make ours better. But that's the issue.
I'm assuming you're talking about the Twin Cities, Roy, because one of the co-host viewers was asking where in Minnesota. I'm assuming you're talking about the Twin Cities, St. Paul,
yes,
Minneapolis.
Yes, right.
So quick question. Go ahead.
When I went there, it was because they had one system, and that's why. I'm sorry, Jim.
No, you're good. One of our viewers, Power Orgs, is asking, what is your definition of politics, and what is the view of politics for Detroiters? What is your view of politics for Detroiters? I think I know, but I'm going to let you answer that.
The thing of it is that, politics, people say, oh, you're a politician, you're a politician. I like to say I'm a statesman, because what that means is that you're doing what the people elected you to do. Politics, true, you have to, like I said, it goes back to that issue of give some, take some. It goes back to that issue where you look at and say, how do I make sure and work that people are receiving the benefits that they deserve? And that's, to me, that's a statesman. You have to be able to go to all different endeavors, whether it's at the local level, municipal level, state level, wherever. The job is to make sure that the people are taking care of you, because that's what, when you say elected, that's what they hired you for.
And you've taken that oath many times. You've raised that hand.
Exactly, Jim. And if you just go in there because you want a paycheck, that's not it. If you go in there because you want another position, that's not it. It is about what is your care and what is your concern, and are you listening to the people? Because it is their issues. I give out my telephone number, my personal telephone number, and have people to call me. I answer the phone. Sometimes I feel like I'm back at homicide, because people are calling me at 3-4 o'clock in the morning. It's
I remember that.
Yeah. And it's like, well, I got you, but there's nothing I can do till 8 or 9 o'clock, but I'm on it. And so that's what people like to know, that although their issues are being addressed at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, it's going to be looked into. And there's been so many people since I've been running, they have asked me, and I'll be like, I'm not in position yet, but I still make contact with people to make sure that their issues are addressed. And that's what people want. That's why I say, when you talk about politics, it is that negotiation to make sure that things are done right for the people who elected you.
And finally, Karen Winston is a very good friend of all of ours, and she's a retired employee. She's not a police or fire, but she's, I guess, in the general retirement system.
Yeah.
She has a question about restoring pensions, and I used to be a pension rep for our city, and I always have a question: is there any way to make the employees that gave so much to the city whole?
Karen and Jim, I'm a personal. How do I say that? It hit me personally because retiring from the police department, we all came on and we said there was a lot of increases in our pay that we didn't receive and things of that nature. And it was like, we'll get it at the end. But then a lot of us at the end, that's when the receivership came in and they started taking from it. One of the things I want to get back on council is to get back in there because I cannot understand why the rotation, because the people were supposed to start receiving their, well, the pension was supposed to be built back up in 2024. Now, from what I'm understanding is it's been rolled over to 2026, 2027. So why
The
is
funding
that?
for the pension you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and it's a Public Act 345 system, which means that by state law, they're required by the Constitution to fund the pension.
Pension, exactly.
I want to address something that one of our viewers, G Money Hollywood, says, Alan, it's designed for Detroit to depend on cars because it's called the Motor City and its global reputation is built around it. Without mass production of cars, Detroit will fall from grace. I think we're past that. I think we were where there were factories everywhere back in the day where they dismantled what little public transportation, the trolley cars or whatever. I think it's a new time. I think people are, I lived, let's say, for 14 years in DC. I didn't use my car during the week. I took the subway to work. If I went out at night, I took the subway home or grabbed a cab or took the bus. There were so many options here. I mean, here now, thankfully for Uber, it's made it a little easier for us to get around, but we still, it's a new time. We're not the Motor City like we were the Motor City. I mean, we've got the Chrysler plant, we've got the GM plant there in Poletown, but we're not, we need to get into the 21st century, I think.
But Alan, to G Money's point, I mean, I get what he's saying, and the fact that it was called the Motor City is what hampered mass transportation from being here.
Well, I think the auto companies wanted everyone who was working there to buy their product.
Yeah, buy their cars, buy their products.
And to be honest, look, I had a car in DC, but I only used it on the weekends when I went to grocery store, visited people, whatever. During the week, it was just so pleasurable. When people would ask me what I liked about DC, that was the first thing I always said is I love the public transportation. And I wish people, I know, like I say, it takes some people an hour and even more to get to work by public transportation. And in the winter, it sucks. And when it's really, really hot, it's not so great standing out there as well, unless the buses are coming more frequently, at least during rush hour. And on Woodward, they come pretty regularly, but, everybody can't live on a major thoroughfare.
Alan, I just wanted to comment. Detroit will always have that title as the Motor City because it's been labeled.
Absolutely.
But we're the technical center now because there's so much technology coming in, and you have a lot of folks that are moving to Detroit because, like yourself, you didn't use your car on the weekend. A lot of people like walking to where they want to go. That's why I was talking about having Amazon build up the houses so people can walk to work, get in those grocery stores and restaurants so people can walk to. A lot of people are getting away from the automotive, but I mean, we will still have that title. Right. But we have to look at the fact that people no longer wants to go with the gas or electricity or driving and the time. They just want to, hey, let's walk to, just like the Avenue of Fashion. There's nothing on the Avenue of Fashion that you cannot get. Whether it's education, whether it's religion, whether it's clothing, whether it's art, whether it's restaurants, and that's what people love. And that's why Detroit is building. That's why I talk about economic growth, economic development. These are the things that we want, because I always tell people that I'm like, when you go to the casinos has everything in it. So you don't go to the other casino. And that's how I am about Detroit, and that's how I am about District 2. I want everything in District 2 so you don't go to any other district,
Sure.
but I want everything in Detroit so you don't go to any other city. And that's how I am. And that's what
No
I'm looking at as far as moving economic growth and development. And
No question. So we're running out of time here, but we're going to wrap it up. We'll get final thoughts from everyone, including you, Roy. Why don't we start with Jim first, and then we'll end up with Roy.
I'm just going to end with this. This conversation is not over yet. So hopefully we can get you back on and we can spend a little more time with you before the election.
I look forward to it. Thank you, Jim.
Eric?
Well, he will be on my show the 21st of July, Jim, so you have to tune in.
Okay. All right. I think thanks so much. It's been a great conversation. I hope we'll have more. Good luck out there. Are you campaigning a lot? Are you going door to door, or what's your method?
Alan, there are times that I spend 5 hours by myself knocking on doors, talking to people. Okay. And that's what I think the engagement with people is very important to me. And I want to continue to do that. So thank you everyone so very much. And, I look forward to, like I said, moving Detroit forward.
And we'll put a link to your website on our show here, because I've been there already, and we'll put a link.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Again, I look forward not only to talking to you guys, but working with you guys, because I think all of our ideas can make things work.
Okay.
And Alan, I can attest, because I ran into him about 4 weeks ago. He's by himself going door to door on Stansbury.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Karen, Janet.
We'll see.
Ira.
We will see everybody tomorrow at 10 a.m. We'll be broadcasting live again at 10 a.m. tomorrow, and have a good night. Go
Thank
Tigers.
you, everyone. God bless.
Thank you, Brother McAllister.
Thank you.